Your sexual activity is not a public affair. So don't make it a public affair. Not everybody needs to know what's going on in your sexual life, irrespective of what your relationship status is. This is for those people who are part of uncomfortable conversations when you're not interested in somebody else's sex life, but this person can't stop but broadcast of how the sex has been and how sexually active they are. There's nothing to brag about sex. Why is sex put on such a pedestal where people are judged based on how they perform in bed? And what you perform in bed is between you and your partner, irrespective of if it was for the night or if you guys are long-term, whatever. How dare you go and sex shame somebody else or share the sexual intimacy between you and somebody else to the world just because you want some clout? Just because you want people to see that you are relevant? Do you even know this person that you're sleeping with? And does this person know that you're going out there and making a hoo-ha about the sex that you've had with them? Because many times people think more sex that they have, the cooler they get. And the lesser sex that you have, the more uncool you are. Rightly so. When you lead with lust, you look exactly how a person needs you to look. You may even look better. You may have the perfect hair. You may have the perfect body. You may have the perfect clothes on. Whatever it may be. But you're still leading with an intention of having sex to gratify the physical, lustful side of things. There's nothing deep about you. There's nothing deep about your relationship. There's nothing deep about your connection. So how dare you compare your relationship with somebody else just based on the sexual activity that you do with your partner or with their partner that you stole? So please make it make sense and stop competing with another man, with another human over sex and how many sexual partners you both can bag. It's actually really embarrassing, but it's extremely low grade. So please, in my opinion, many relationships, good relationships, have broken either because of a Jezebel spirit who only knows about sex and only comes around people with her ass out or with his D out as a man. But there are also people who are in full-blown relationships with each other, but they do not keep their sex life private. There's one thing to go and talk about your partner when you're upset, but when you are having sex with your partner, your homie, your girl don't need to know what his D size is, don't need to know how wet she is all the time. Do you really want them to replace you in your partner's life? Because bear in mind, people that you surround are clocking always what you are saying. And not all friends are friends. So the more you discuss your sex life innocently, these people are imagining sex with their partner in some cases, if you're not careful. And it doesn't have to be relationships all the time. Even if it's a one-night stand, even if you're just friends with benefits, have some boundaries when it comes to having sex with one another and have that expectations with each other to respect each other, to keep your mouth shut when you step out of the bedroom. Nobody needs to know how cool and how popular you are among men and women just because you get sex easily and you give out sex easily, in other words. And I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but nobody needs to get involved in that conversation. And you as a human being should be able to walk away from any type of person, places that making you uncomfortable instead of joining in and enjoying everything that this person is saying. Because people who walk away from negative and toxic conversations about somebody else, especially when it comes to intimacy, are rare. Because many a times people enjoy spicy conversations. People love gossip, especially when it comes to sex shaming somebody else, because that is a joke that is supposed to be laughed about apparently. But nobody really thinks about the person who is being sex shamed. And unfortunately, when you are in a relationship where you become a victim of a partner who sex shames you, well, that breaks your spirit completely. And at the end of the day, if you do not have a partner when you're in a relationship who builds you up when you are having sex, who also is okay with teaching and learning things with you, if they do not have that mentality, but instead they just put you down and compare you with all their previous exes and their side WHORES, I promise you, you will still be left for a Jezebel spirit, man or woman, just because their sex game is something that they have perfected. Because I can tell you one thing, people who have nothing to do in their life will perfect their sex game, because that's one thing that they can perform, because they feel if they perform well in bed and if their sex game is 100, that's good. They don't really give a shit about what's happening with other areas of their life. But there are some other people like us, majority of us hopefully, where we have goals and aims in life. And for us, sex is something which is supposed to be enjoyed, and it's pleasure, which is emotional connection with somebody that we're having sex. It's less about PORNSTAR sex, but it is more about intimacy. And that's something Jezebel spirits will never understand. And if you know that you are dealing with somebody who's naturally attracted to only Jezebel spirit, men or women, then you better remember how long you can stay in this person's life, or how long they will keep you in their life. Because people do get bored with people like you and I, who value an emotional connection before a sexual connection. Even if these people are not players, even if they don't date around, they will only go after sexual, lustful connections. And when the sex and the lust fizzles out, the interest in their partner fizzles out. And yes, these people don't fuck around, don't play around, but they also never settle down. And if you're somebody who wants to settle down, then be ready to wait for eternity, because this person is not going to settle down with you. And also be ready to be victim of being sex shamed by this human being, because eventually, when the sexual attraction fizzles out, their respect goes out of the window too. And when the respect goes out of the window, they don't appreciate the sex that they have with you. So be very careful who you're building your relationship with, and what type of sexual discussions and what is the sexual connection that you have with each other, and how much of value do you and this person put into sex versus an emotional connection, versus an intellectual connection, versus a spiritual connection. Do you guys even think about that? Or is it just about and sex and leave? And if it's a one-night stand with this man, with this woman that you're sleeping with, and it's never okay for this man and this woman to go and talk about you in a negative way, and to go talk about your intimate details, however good and banging the sex was, however bad the sex was. And you should think about it, and you should do the same. It should be a rule which is unsaid, to respect each other's privacy. Because if you chose to strip naked with each other, better uphold your names and go your own way the next day. Nobody needs to make a propaganda you or he performed in bed. Have some respect for yourself and the other person as a human being. And for all those females and males who feel like sex is the only way for you to get attention from another male and female, and that's all you have to offer, just know that sex is really easy. You're not using your brains really. You're not creating anything magnificent. You're just having sex, and you just know certain moves in bed, and that is great. But what do you think? Others can't do it? How do you know how everybody else performs in bed? Because if sex is the only way to lead into conversations for you, and if your body and your physical attributes and lust is the only way for you to attract a man or a woman, or to break a man and a woman's union, that should really tell you how miserable you are of a human being. And I hope you do get your karma for it, because just sex has no IQ. What's your IQ like? So yes, you can walk around all expensive and bougie as a man or woman who comes off really high maintenance, and you can't be backed easily. You can be backed easily. And people like us on the other end will never respect you. And I'm talking to people who are on the other end, who do not want to be a part of a lifestyle like this, who do not want to be part of friendships and lovers who only value sex and who only value how you perform and how you look in bed all the time. If people don't care about your heart, if people do not care about the relationship that you both share with each other, if people do not value emotions, then you do not really need to be in a relationship like that. Honestly, if you're in a situation like that, it's really okay for you to be rude if needed, to ask them to shut up, because it is none of your business to be a part of a conversation that's supposed to be private between two people. And if somebody can't keep things private, especially when it comes to sex, then you don't need to involve yourself in conversations like this. And many a times when you are that person who steps in and tells somebody that, hey, this is not cool, if the other person's not involved, if you do not know their side of the story, I do not really want to get involved in this conversation. And when it comes to their sexual activities, I don't understand how should you get any gratification from it, because if you do get gratification from somebody else's sex life and imagining them having sex, then something is really wrong with you. And if you are part of a clan where you all share sex stories with each other, then what is boundaries to y'all? And where do you draw the line between each other's partners? Because weaponizing sex over another human being is never gonna work for you. At the end of the day, it'll always backfire, because just know sex is easy. Sex is natural human tendency to have with another. Some people lead with lust, some people lead with love. Irrespective of where you are in your life, there's no judgment. But just know that if sex is all you have to offer, and if sex is all that you want to compete with another human being, then that's a losing battle, because people can't really compete when it comes to sex. Sex is really about connections, and people who really can appreciate a human connection in a world filled with sex and lust, that is special. And I feel sorry for people who only look for lust, because that is so easy. You've never even experienced what love is. So, yes, while you celebrate your wins, your instant gratification, just stop and think that you do not really have the basic understanding of how to build human connections. Without sex, what do you have to offer? Without sex, do you have a personality? Do people enjoy your company? Are you boring without sex? So think about it, because the fact that you cannot build a real connection, an emotional connection with another human being, is because you do not have it with your own self. You do not have it with God, of course. And therefore, you think you can weaponize sex and get everything that you want and treat everybody like shit, or make everybody dance around you like your puppets because you have a good D game, you have a good P. We all have one, either or. So, for you, sex and relationship is animalistic. For you, it's lustful. And for you, you gain importance, you feel a sense of belonging when you have sex, and when you talk about sex in a certain way, or your partner in a certain way. And that's when you feel important about yourself, and that's how you truly build some type of connection with people, is either by having sex with them recklessly, or talking extremely lustfully, disrespectfully about your sex life and your partner. And for you, it's just so mechanical, and that's all is what you want. And how you feel and how much of a control you have over somebody else's D or P is all that matters to you. So the whole idea of building a sexual, genuine, spiritual connection, having a spiritual sexual experience, is out of the window for you. For you, it's just and leaving. And that's all there is. That is really sad. And I'm glad that we are not friends. And I hope I never get to see you. And I hope you all keep people's name out of your mouth. Not respecting your boundaries, nor your partner's boundaries, or anybody who you're having sex with. And you're just a blabbermouth because you want to get attention from people, because that's the only way you can build connection with people.